Warning: the following episodes contains light discussion on war, suicide, and troubled relationships. Please be advised to listen with caution. If you or someone you know is having suicidal thoughts, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Line at 800-273-8255. The Floor Academy podcast is sponsored by Tralama, the trade labor marketplace, where businesses can find skilled trade labor, such as flooring installers, and where flooring installers and other skilled tradespeople can find permanent or project work. You can set up your profile at tralama.com, TRALAMA.com, or download the app from the Apple App Store or Google Play. And remember, Tralama is always free for skilled tradespeople. Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hadeen, owner of Illustrious Hardwoods in Mesa, Arizona. Our mission is to get you from playing contractor to running a successful and profitable business that supports your dreams. We're here to talk with flooring professionals from all over the country about the issues that matter to you. I want to encourage you to learn while you earn. Don't forget to check out our website and merch at flooracademypod.com or to become a patron over at patreon.com/flooracademy. Even $5 a month goes a long way to help this content to continue to be published. There are also links in the show notes. This week's guest is Kristan Blanchard. Kris is a former Marine turned contractor turned sales rep. In this eventful journey, communication has been important, but not always at the forefront. After getting married and divorced before he ever left the military and a standard 4-year contract, he was left with a sour taste in his mouth. Reconnecting with a childhood friend and his now wife opened his eyes to a lot of things, though. Sometimes we have to admit we are the lowest common denominator. Listen in as Kris and I talk about relationships, growth, and communication. Kristan Blanchard, are you on the line?
Yeah, buddy.
Awesome.
How you doing?
I'm good. Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast.
Thank you very much.
This is a fun one because I've seen your name in the groups for a very long time, and I knew you were a rep, and then at some point you disappeared for a little bit, and then you came back, and I made a comment, and you were like, "Who the hell are you?" And I mean, technically I'm a nobody, but that's okay.
For the record, I was joking, but that's part of the joke.
So no, it was good. It was good. But I knew at some point, like you participate heavily in the communities, and you care about the product that you rep, and so I knew there was a story to be found somewhere. And then I threw out my fishing line, and I was trolling the waters in the groups, and you bit, and I was like, all right, if that's the one, that's what we're doing. So why don't you introduce who you are, what you do, why you do it? And then we'll get into the meat and potatoes of it.
Sure, buddy. Thank you. Well, Kristan Blanchard. I live in Reno, Nevada. I cover Northern California, Northern Nevada for Ardex, tile and stone installation systems. So I'm a rep, or I'm a tile and stone installation systems sales professional. Take it for what you will. I got a wife and 3 kids, and I come from growing up in the country, basically building tree forts and blowing them up and building them again and helping my dad roof stuff and whatever. So I grew up with tools in my hand. I didn't really grow up with toys in my hand. Joined the Marine Corps, got married, got out of the Marine Corps, got divorced, went to school, did my whole thing in my mid-20s trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life, like everyone else kind of does. Found my current wife, got married. When she got pregnant, a little gear or warning light maybe went off in my head that said, you gotta stop messing around now, dude. You gotta get serious. Mm-hmm. I was applying for law enforcement jobs and stuff, and I was in school for criminal justice, and that was my whole plan. My whole life was law enforcement when I got out of the military. And anyway, baby was coming regardless.
Okay.
So I just asked myself simply, what do you know how to do? Well, I know how to build stuff, so that's it. Start building things for people. So I mean, I did maintenance jobs, I did handyman jobs, I framed houses and painted houses and did flooring and landscaping, whatever. one thing led to another thing, and became a contractor with another kid now, 2 kids, working a lot. We'll get into that in just a little bit, but contractor segued to becoming a rep. And then I got into this online, social media world with GTP and Mud and Cal Mafia and Fluid Installers of America. And then even in the rep world, I've had to make some sacrifices and some changes too, which some of what you just discussed. Some people have seen some of that. And then I've come to Ardex for 2 years now, and then simply here trying to be the guy that used to do stuff that now talks to people about what they do. And when that's what I do, probably 3/4 of my time as a rep is I handle phone calls, emails, text messages, in-person stuff, about guidance, sometimes general guidance, sometimes it's stuff you could simply read on a bag, but a lot of times it's, hey, how do I take this and make it work in this situation? I know what the bag says, but
yeah.
So then I get into much more specific situations, and that's where probably the meat and potatoes of what I do comes into play, from an Ardex standpoint. And thankfully, I'm still married. My second wife.
Okay.
We just celebrated 8 years of marriage together.
There you go.
I'm doing about 8 times better than I was with the first time.
Okay.
So anyway, that's my general background. That's where I come from. If
Okay.
you don't know me, hi. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'll put out there that so after my 100th episode, where I gave my wife the control, and I had Tanya Gonzalez, who is married to Daniel Gonzalez, one of the co-owners of Preferred Flooring up in Michigan, and I had Treva Potter, who is married to Ruben Potter of Floors by Southern Boys. So my wife, Jamie, Tanya, and Treva all got on. They talked about what it's like to be married to a contractor, and they were able to air some grievances. During that, because my wife was the host for the most part with 2 co-hosts, I got thrown under the bus for an hour and 45 minutes, and I knew that was going to happen. I fully admit I knew what she was going to say, right? I knew, like, we don't have this sparkling clean marriage. I know where I lack and fault. We've been married 13 and a half years. Like, I hear it all the time of where I could improve. So, are things being worked on? I'm trying to figure some stuff out. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want to get a divorce. I love my wife. I love my kids. But it got me thinking of how many people in this industry get divorced, if not multiple times, and then maybe this one time they get it right, or the second time they're getting it right. And so what changes did they make? What did they learn from that first failure that, had they listened, had they applied what they know now, their first marriage could have worked out better? Because at the end of the day, like, some people are going to say, I believe in, there's one person for me, right? Like, I just got to find my soulmate. I don't know that I buy that. I think you hop into a relationship with somebody, and, like, just like you have to put effort into learning our trade, you got to put effort into making this relationship work. It's not easy, right? People change, they grow. And so if you're not working on it, then it's going to fall apart. And so I'm looking for, I wanted to find somebody to talk through all of that, right? Not that you want to go back to your ex, but that what they were telling you was probably true, and that, that least common denominator is you in both situations of your current marriage and your previous marriage. And if you have an ex-wife and a current wife telling you that, like, you lack in an area, well, it's probably true. So maybe there's some changes to make there. For me, it was, I got fired a lot because everyone told me I had a chip on my shoulder, and I, wanted to be on the top, even though I hadn't, like, earned it yet. And I just, when you get fired a bunch for running your mouth at bosses about how you know more than them, apparently the common denominator is that Kyle likes to run his mouth and he's an a-hole. And so that's why I run my own company now, is, like, it's just easier for me to be the boss. So, but at the time when you're, like, early mid 20s, do you see that? No, you just think you know everything and that your boss is an idiot. So that's kind of what I
Right.
wanted. So I wanted to hear, you jumped on and you were like, "Hey man, that's kind of me." And so even though you were in the military at this time, I kind of want to just run through what happened, why it happened, and then kind of how you've grown, how you've shifted, why we're getting into, you've been married 8 years, but I'm sure things get rocky. I know I've been married 13 years, man, and we've had some
Hmm.
really extreme up and downs. And now I guess before we even get into it, if anyone's wondering why we're going to sit here and talk about marriage when this is like Floor Academy and we're supposed to be talking about how to run a more profitable and successful business, well, if you're wasting time trying to deal with court because you're getting a divorce or your spouse is irked at you instead of like running a semi-successful relationship, you're probably wasting time and mental energy on stuff that would be better put elsewhere. So besides being able to be profitable and make more money, we have to focus on physical and mental health too. And this is part of that. So I don't, you can send me hate mail about this stuff, but this is all important. This is part of running a successful business, in my opinion.
No, they'll relate to it. The only people sending hate mail will be people that are basically guilty of what we talk about and don't want to admit it. And if you're young and you're single and you don't have a wife and you don't really have a business, you're working for somebody else, you should still probably listen to you don't do, maybe theoretically,
Mm-hmm.
don't do what a lot of us have done or maybe are doing still. But so yeah, I did bite because I thought that look, I mean, like everybody else, I scroll the pages and I see 1,000 posts about flooring or tile specifically for me or whatever. But you see somebody talking about a human topic. Well, yeah, that got my eye. So,
Mm-hmm.
of course, I responded. I think people who are currently running their business or ever have ran a business of any success probably will understand when I talk about my experiences in the military. It's not substantially different. It's a soul sucking endeavor that is around the clock that changes your DNA. It's not a clock in, clock out gig.
Mm-hmm.
It is constant 24/7, 360 degrees. So any relationship you have will be affected by that, right? So
Oh yeah.
let me dive back into where I come from and I give you some mindset. And for people who maybe know me, but a lot of people won't know what I'm talking about now, or my bosses, whoever, just sit back and laugh, I guess. But so I got out of high school. I was just about to graduate high school, and I had no plans. I grew up in a pretty rough family. Could definitely be a lot rougher, but it was rough enough. Um, and I had no plans. They asked me, what are you gonna write for your graduation speech? I'm like, I don't know. My grades suck. I don't care about school. I'm not, I don't have a future. And I know that if I stay here in this little town of 2,000 people and 20,000 cows, that I
Man.
probably won't go anywhere, right?
Yeah.
So I just, you'll hear me describe it like this a couple of times in my life. Something just clicked, and I got a hair in my butt and went to the Marine Corps recruiter and told him that I wanted to join the Marine Corps. And he told me I was fat and I should go look at the other branches. So I did. I walked in the Army and the Air Force, and I walked out of their office and walked back into the Marine Corps and said, "Well, I won't be fat, so let's go." And that was essentially that. I mean, the honest truth. So I don't want to demystify something a lot of people, see as very sacred or something. But I was smart enough to know that I needed a good ass kicking.
Mm.
I needed structure. I
Mm-hmm.
needed, for whatever reason, some sort of survival instinct in me said, you need to be in a situation where you're either going to be dead or you're going to come out a hell of a lot stronger. Because where I come from was just going to make me dead, not stronger. So anyway, fast forward, I do the whole Marine thing. I go through boot camp, and I become a whole lot less fat real quick.
Go figure.
Yeah, yeah. The entire time, and so this is December of '05 that I joined, right? So the Iraq war is going on, Afghanistan's also happening,
Mm-hmm.
Fallujah's already happened. So I'm not retarded. I shouldn't say that word. I apologize, but I'm not dumb. I know that what I'm doing, I'm going to go to war. Duh. Go through all my training. this is about December time of '06 now, a year later. We got orders to go to Iraq, and the information that we had at the time with the unit that was currently there at that time was that it was essentially the most violent area of operation in the entire country. Okay, well, that sounds like on par. Okay, well, we're finishing up my last major training exercise before we left to California for a month for a whole month-long excursion. And something, again, clicked in me, and I just had this very sudden realization that, hey, this isn't theoretical anymore. This isn't training ops anymore. This isn't you're freaking tired and your legs hurt and you've been smoked all day. In about 40 days, I'm literally going to step off of Black Hawk, maybe onto an IED, and live for 7 months. You know,
Okay.
I could die very easily.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 19, about to turn 20 in like 2 weeks from this date. You know, or worse, not die, but get maimed, come back with no leg or no, all kinds of stuff. You know, so I got scared, dude. And come to find out, looking back, a lot of us did this. But I called up, you know, my closest relationship at the time and proposed on the phone right then and there on the way back from a army base in Hawaii, and she said yes and everything. Okay. And so anyway, spur of the moment, just like that. So I got married January 4th, 2007. Did I love her? Oh, absolutely. Were we kids? Well, yeah. I was less of a kid at that point, but got married on Christmas Eve, January 4th, 2007. And a week later, I was in 29 Palms, California for a month. And then I came back for about 4 days. And then beginning of March, I headed out to Iraq for 7 months. In that time, I talked to her on a satellite phone for about 3 or 4 minutes. Mm-hmm. She didn't recognize my voice. She hung up on me.
Jeez.
I had to trade diesel fuel, basically, to an Iraqi to cook a lamb to get that satellite phone. And anyway, and I talked to her on email 2 or 3 times during that 7 months. So she didn't know what I was doing, et cetera, et cetera. When I got home from that deployment.
Well, so there was no relationship. I mean, you proposed, you were able to get married, no. And then you took off and you hardly communicated for 7 months. So
exactly
nothing existed.
And it was selfish of me. I just thought that when I come back, if I come back with, you know, one of my legs blown off or something, well, at least by default, I'll have somebody to come back to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Somebody will want me. It's hard to explain. But
I mean, the thought process makes sense. I understand. Like it would be hard, right? You don't want to come back to nothing. You want someone to be there to care for you and help you, especially if you're maimed.
I'll come back at 20 years old and probably 3/4 of my life over at that time. And so it's just, I don't know. It's hard to explain. If you get a loaded gun put to your head, you just suddenly realize that things change. Mm-hmm. All your priorities change, like that scene in a Fight Club. So I did that, and she did her best to support me in her way. Came back in October of 2007. Turns out she wrecked my car in like 3 weeks before I got back. Forgot to pay she didn't know she needed to pay bills, so she didn't pay any insurance. So I had no insurance. So my car's ripped in half, and so lots of life issues. Mm-hmm. happened because I didn't pay attention to the details. I just assumed I'm in Iraq for 7 months. Hey, you'll take care of paying the cell phone bill, the insurance bill, the car bill, etc. A lot of it was on auto pay. So anyway, learned $18,000 lesson from that. And still, I thought our marriage was fine. That was just some.
We're just going to work through this. It's just little details.
Just some life bull crap. You know, I went and got another loan. My credit score went from like 720 to 400, you know, and okay. So anyway, we worked through all those things. And so that period of time when I was in Iraq was very challenging from a military standpoint. I did a lot of things that put me into new situations when I got home. So when I got home, I was one of only 2 or 3 guys that had trigger experience, basically. I had actual combat experience. And so I ended up becoming a sort of unofficial teacher at a lower rank to a lot of the new Marines coming in right then.
Okay.
Who were coming in when I was already deployed. And so now here I am again, constantly working just around the clock on things. Gone for 2 weeks here, gone for 2 weeks there. Even beyond being a Marine who has to follow orders and go and do things, now I'm teaching these guys. And so, I leave for PT at 4:45 in the morning and get home, walk in the door at 10 p.m. kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was normal. But here's my first problem though. My issue was I knew that I had to be a certain thing to exist in that environment. To one, just stay alive, and to two, thrive, and three, perhaps kill. And so, I became that thing, and I was successful because I did not die, and I didn't get my legs blown off. And a lot of people will talk about this symptom. You can't just turn it off all of a sudden because you're on a plane back home, right? And so she got to look at that guy, and she'd known me for years and years and years and years before the Marine Corps. She got to look at that guy and realize that thing is not the guy that I knew at all, And I knew this, but I basically said, "Suck it up." Like, what's your problem?
Well, is there any coming back from that? Are you able to? I'm sure even to this day you haven't fully turned it off. Like you were put in a circumstance to, right? It's survive or die, and there's not any other like option in between. And so,
can you come back for it? My simple answer is yes. Have I done it? Probably not. I still walk around my normal day with a loaded gun on me. And a lot of people think that's all about my ego. To me, it's not. To me, it's as simple as waking up and going pee. It's just a fundamental facet of what I do in my day. That's it. But see, there's that starts to bleed into the sort of personality conflict that you're going to see with me and the rest of the world. That some of what you talked about exists in there too. And so I'm just this Marine, and I'm doing the best that I can be. I am by no means a rock star Marine. I'm not no John Cena on a movie or anything like that, but I'm just a dude trying to do what he signed up to do and teach other guys to do things. And the casualty of that was not just me. It was definitely my first wife. But I looked at her and said, "Hey, you're 20 years old and you live in Hawaii, 400 meters away from a freaking beach. And you got all your bills paid for. Like, everyth's paid for. What the hell's your problem, It was a very black and white Marine way to look at things. Like, I pay all the bills. You don't got to do anything. You can go get a part-time job and go hang out with your friends. Okay, well, if there's any wives listening right now, they probably want to smack me for saying that shit, right?
Well,
because it's not that simple.
You can go back and listen to the 100th episode, and I'm kind of the same way, right? Like, hey, I'm building all this. You don't have to do anything. You're home with the kids, and you can raise them. And I understand that perspective, but I've also, after 13 years of being told that, hey, you're the issue, well, I'm probably the issue, right? So that's where this important stuff comes in. Like, you're in that zone, and you're like, look, you have everything you could ever want. Well, they don't want that. They want us, apparently. So
they do.
How did that? But it doesn't make sense at the time, right? You're like, you can't have me and the money.
No, I think for the most part, I'm going to err on the side of being generous. I think for the most part, people, especially the type of men who are drawn to these types of trades and jobs, are born with this innate instinct to push, 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 push. Regardless, whether it's military or working on cars or building houses or shining shoes. They have that instinct to push, push, push. It absolutely was me. It absolutely was my dad. My dad would do the same thing. He'd work his fingers until they were bleeding, but he couldn't have a real conversation with my mom when he got home. So, so I had seen a lot of failure to try to avoid, right?
Okay.
Well, I just went out and created my whole unique whole other line of marriage failure. That's all I really did. But so I'm busy around the clock in regards to how I feel about things. I'm 2.5 years into a 4-year contract. I can't leave. This isn't a 9 to 5. I can't quit.
Yes.
So after about 6 months of living together after my deployment, and I'm full on Rambo mode, essentially. just to be honest with you, I don't even think I had a personality. I don't think I joked or I did much of anything. I mean, I remember how it was. Very literal.
Yeah.
I mean, I would joke amongst my fellow Marines and stuff, but you put me in front of my 20-year-old young wife, and I have nothing in common with her anymore, right? And that's not her fault. It
Yeah.
wasn't really my fault. But anyway, I essentially just said, this is the way things are. I'm the way that I am for a reason. And maybe I won't be this way forever, but I am right now, and this is what I need to be to not only operate and survive in this environment, but to teach these other Marines what to do and how to live or kill in the environment too, and not come home missing their legs or their head. So I took it very seriously. So I looked at her problems of me as insignificant and immature and unnecessary. And if anybody knows anything about combat Marines, things that are unnecessary get cut off instantaneously. Simple as that. So so it was a mechanical function for me. Well, anyway, as you can imagine by now, this didn't work out well for her. So about 6 months into it, I'm teaching an off-road class for Humvees and 7 tons, and I get a call on my phone from a number that I don't recognize. I pick it up, and it's my first sergeant of my unit, who I absolutely know. So anybody else that knows about the military, that's a bad thing. So I was an E4 at that time, just newly promoted to a corporal. And my first sergeant's calling my phone directly. He says, come report to my office right now. Roger that. Okay. So put someone else in charge of the class and ran over to his office and reported to him. Well, my wife at that time had come into his office with base MPs and demanded that I don't remember exactly what he said, essentially fire me and kick me out of the Marine Corps.
Oh.
Or something along those lines.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly everything. It was so. Let me give you a little bit of background. This first sergeant, his name was First Sergeant Bullock. He started the Marine Corps Martial Arts program in '98 with Ken Shamrock, and so this is 10 years later almost. Anyway, this is a very large man, very capable, like 4-tab red tabs on a black belt, and my first sergeant. So, yeah, whatever he said, he breathed. I was listening to it, right? So he told me, he was like, look, Double Dog, you need to get your shit in order. She needs to go home, back to California. Aye, for certain. Okay, I had no idea what he's talking about. He actually offered, and this is a saving grace and a lesson in life, by the way. He actually offered to pay for her plane ticket home, and I pay him back later. Because he had seen situations like this before.
Yeah.
What he saw coming, what ultimately did happen, is that she would do things to try to get me court-martialed or kicked out because she couldn't deal with this life, and they knew that I can't walk away from it.
Oh,
okay.
Man. Yeah.
So, as smart as I like to think that I am, and as much time as I had spent defending myself and working humans over in Iraq to prevent a situation where guns had to be drawn, I was totally taken. All of this happened underneath my eye. Like I didn't see it coming. I couldn't see it coming. I can see it clear as day looking back now, but at the time,
yes,
this wasn't a possibility until all of a sudden I'm standing in front of First Sergeant. He's saying, your wife is going to jack up your life, dude. Period. You're going to lose your honor in the Marine Corps. And right there, that's a gut shot, basically. Okay. So now we're talking about another loaded gun to my head, but it was a different kind. It wasn't a real gun. It was the kind that can wipe out my life and my honor and my reputation, not a bullet. And so for whatever reason, I was more scared of that than I was actually being shot or blown up. And I don't understand that mentality, but that truly scared me. So I went into frantic mode, and true to form, like I would do with every other situation, when there was a perceived loaded gun or a threat to me, I acted in swift, totalitarian black and white. So right then and there, I told her it's done. That's it. Toodles. I'm buying you a plane ticket, which I actually did pay for, thankfully, but $765, I remember to this day. Bought it on my little MyTouch 3G. Drove her to the airport in a couple of hours. Last time I ever saw her. Now, trying to get divorced, though.
Okay.
And, and this entire time, I still think I'm the victim.
Yeah.
Because I've done everything honorable, right? I'm the good guy. I'm the hero in the story.
Well,
Obviously,
you're
right?
serving your
I have to
country
be.
and you're making the sacrifice and you went to war
Right.
and like how could you not be the good guy?
Right. She's just this little conniving, young, little naive, you know, wife. So, and there's some truth in that, sure, but that's really not the story. But so I sent her home, so now she's not physically around. So that's the gun might still be loaded, but it's at least a lot farther away from me now,
Mm-hmm.
not up to my head. And I think everything's going great. Well, I'm about to deploy again. Lots of things happen. She has to still be on the checking account for the next year and a half through an entire deployment in Iraq again. And the last 10 months of me being in Hawaii before I got out of the Marine Corps in December of '09, she shared that bank account with me. So it was a race to who could get on the phone and withdraw funds fastest. There's
Oh,
multiple times where I would get paid and literally I'd have like $50.
jeez.
There are times I broke down crying because like how the flip am I supposed to how am I supposed to operate like this? Anyway, and so that was that stress. Now
Mm-hmm.
a whole other type of stress, other than driving on IEDs and things like that. And still, to this point in time, in my head, I'm the victim. I was dumb. I don't regret my decision to marry her. I did it for a reason that was genuine and real and not very difficult to explain. But how I executed the rest of the marriage was bad.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned since through years of counseling and just my life and a new wife um, that I didn't have what it would have taken to make that marriage successful anyway. That part of me was cut off for sake of what I had to do in my life at the time. So it was sort
Mm-hmm.
of doomed anyway. And I sort of knew that. I was just hoping that she'd known me long enough that she would wait this out until I got out of the Marine Corps.
Okay.
That wasn't an option. So I escalated things. I essentially pulled the trigger and kicked her out. Well, divorce took years and years, and I had to keep refiling, and all kinds of stuff happened. And I finally got divorced about 2 months after I got out of the Marine Corps legally. So now I'm out. I'm in Hawaii. I'm alone. I decided that I wasn't going to reenlist for 4 more years to go to Afghanistan. I wanted to extend to go there one time, and they're like, no, you need to reenlist for 4 years. And I'm thinking, I'm about to be 22. The new GI Bill's in effect. I can go to college for free, basically, as long as I get good enough grades. I'm in Hawaii, and now I'm single. Screw you, screw the Marine Corps, whatever.
Yeah.
And that was also a life lesson there that looking back was a poor decision. It took me 10 years to recover from that. So I get out and I think that I'm good to go. I'm alive. I got all my appendages. I've survived my marriage and divorce. You can't touch me. Right? I got my shit. I got my stuff in order. So I start college. That doesn't work out very well. I go to a community college and I just start taking some general credits, and that did not work out at all.
Yeah, you got to show up for those.
Well, no, I went to them.
Oh,
It
you did
wasn't a
better than
matter
me.
of doing the. It wasn't a matter of going to the class. It was the matter of being in the class and having normal 18, 19, 20-year-olds in the class. And then there's me, just turned 22, right?
Well, and it's been to war. Your perspective on the
Well,
world is quite a bit different than kids that just finished high school and went to college.
it was 100%. I would have rather gone back to boot camp. It was torture for a semester for me to be in those 3 classes. I did good in the class on paper. But that was I first started realizing that, hey, maybe you're not 100% the victim in this.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably some of what Jennifer was looking at and talking about, dude. Because I just wanted to punch people every day. I didn't even want to talk to them. I just wanted to start punching them. Like, I cannot believe how stupid you are. And of course there might be good reason for that in my brain, but they're living their life just fine. I can't fault them for being normal college kids any more than they should fault me for being not normal college Marine Corps kids. So anyway, I left that environment after the first semester, and I went on to an online class. Well, it was University of Phoenix. And the only reason why I tried it is because we only had to meet one time a day. one time a week, like 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And because whoever my counselor was telling me, like, look, these are mostly all adults. These are people with kids and careers, things too. So actually, I'm on the younger side of that. And he said a lot of them are military. I said, okay. If I have a shot at going to college, this might be it. So I go there and start working on my criminal justice. And essentially now all I'm doing is working out 4 or 5 days a week, going to class for 4 hours in one night, and doing a little bit of homework. You know, my life is great compared to where I just came from 6 months ago.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, so again, I think that I've handled myself. To answer the question you asked, can you ever really come back from war in the way that you operate? I thought I did. I thought I successfully did what my dad couldn't do, what lots of people don't do. You see movies and books and things. That wasn't the case. My whole world started crumbling down. Everyone around me was looking at me like I was a monster. And anyway, I had to come home. So I decided to leave Hawaii, ditch my phone, get rid of all those phone numbers, get rid of that environment, get rid of everything, go back to nothing. And I went back home to Oregon and lived with my dad, who was also divorced. So now I'm 25 living with my dad. So that's a great story. Anyway,
we'll talk through that one later. I can
yeah, we'll talk
relate.
through that one. But I was smart enough to know that if I stayed in this environment with this mentality, I'd either wind up in jail or in a ditch. I've got to get a factory reset again. Except this time I was confused as to why. I just knew I needed to. So fast forward, living with my dad. The dating game is not very strong in that kind of environment. Meet my wife. Now, my wife and I knew each other as teenagers.
Okay.
We come from the same area, actually. So when I say I met my wife, I didn't really meet her. I'd known her for 10 years at that time. But met her as an adult, we'll say that. And let's just say she looked a little different when I met her as an adult.
Okay.
All right. So, of course, you know, I'm this cocky Marine. I've survived 2 combat tours and the divorce and moving back from Hawaii. And I got a Mustang, my first Mustang, and I hit her up. And we get together. It wasn't working real soon. And she pretty much told me, like, look, the way that you are now, I can't be with. Oh gosh, okay, here I am going right back to that whole circle again, right? Okay. And I want to get mad at the world and be like, oh, I am what I am. Why can't you just accept it? Stop being a pansy, blah, 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 and all of that. Okay.
Yeah.
And then my dad one time told me, he's like, you know, KB, just move on. She's obviously not it. And I broke down. I'm like, wait a second. She's not it, and she's not it, and she's not it, and she's not it. I mean, I got a lot of bodies, dude. Like, common denominator, right? You asked?
Yeah.
What's the common denominator? Well, the common denominator is I'm an asshole.
Yes, I get that one. I get that one.
Yeah, you know, not because I woke up and chose to be an asshole, but for whatever reason, the situations in my life are predicated that essentially I can't be around normal civilians. That was very hard for me to come to that realization. Very hard. That was like a midlife crisis at 25. I was like, what do you mean? So I was a civilian. I left and went to a war and blah, blah, blah. And forget all the politics, but I did all that. And now because I did that, I can't be one of them. You know, Felt like I got cheated out of life, you know? So I'm thinking, okay, either I have to fundamentally completely change what I am, or I might as well go find a log cabin or a gun. Because that's it. I mean, there's no future here. Right. So I went and met her and told her I'll change.
Hold on. That's scary and deep. And when you put that into context of why veterans do what they do, especially why suicide is high among them, like that's a scary thought, but it makes sense when that context is put there. So
you live and you operate, and sometimes perhaps you have to kill somebody, all on this very, very thin, very sharp edge of human existence. And that very thin, sharp edge of human existence becomes your entire life. So, yeah, congratulations, you're alive still. You won. You're done. Go be normal. Go stop at stop signs. Go pay your taxes. Go listen to your boss. Go What?
Yeah, that doesn't translate well, and
What? Nah.
so I get it, and it sucks. Like it's not,
Yeah.
and I don't know if
And then
being raised on a farm and
try and
killing animals growing up would really help, right? Like killing a human is different than like killing an animal to be able to survive and do your food. You're just around death a little more, and so there's definitely something deeper there, and I feel for you. Like I do. I think that's a shitty way of existence, but at the same time, right? This is what the world has built, and we need to defend ourselves and go help other. Can you get rid of it? Probably not. Like it needs to exist, but that's it's crappy that you get dumped off and not taught how to adjust back into a life, right? Like you really are property of the government, and so we own you. We're gonna dictate everything for you, and then when we're done with you, we just throw you aside like they do when they leave the country and leave behind all the equipment and guns and everything else. We don't need you anymore.
Oh, that analogy is painful, but essentially, yeah, that's what happens. You know, but you're young though, and you think, well, I'm strong. I know I'm tough.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone through all these tests and done all these things, you know, and hiked for 9,000 miles and all this other shit. So obviously I can succeed outside of this world.
Yeah.
And there's lots of successful veterans, lots of them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why veteran suicide is so high, is because we look at things in a very black and white, absolute sense. There's absolutely a way to go forward here, or on this path, there is no perceivable way forward whatsoever.
Okay.
And then we look at that and we plan ahead and we see around the corners and say, if I can't even get a girl who's known me for a decade to freaking tolerate me for 2 months, I'm effed.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't do that, then I can't be happy. I can't be fulfilled. I can't have all those things that 6 months ago, a year ago, when I was sitting in a sandhole in Iraq getting shot at, that I was thinking about, like, this is what I'm going to have. Now you telling me I can't have any of that stuff? I can't be normal? So that's where it's either go find a log cabin on the top of the hill with your dog and a rifle, or find a gun and end it. And that's where the mentality comes from. So those thoughts crossed my brain. Obviously, I didn't do the latter, but
well, you wanted the girl, so
I wanted the girl, and so I know I didn't. I basically say, well, what did you do in boot camp? So I said the same thing. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do, and I don't know how I'm going to do it, and I don't know if it's going to kill me or if I'm going to live through it. But I'm going to commit to this process. So I went to her and I just said, I will change this and change this and change this and change this, and I don't know how, and I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to do my very best and get the crap beat out of me and hopefully come out the side better, right?
Okay.
Well, anyway, essentially I told myself it's her or it's bust. You're not going to, like, Kris, you are not going to find a woman that's like you, that's going to be easy to be with, because you're not freaking easy to be with.
Okay. Yeah, that's the, okay.
If you found the woman that is easy for you to be with, she would be a wolf. Period. You know, and I basically had this very logical sense that said a woman that would be easy for me to be with inherently may not be the best mother, because she'll have to deny a lot of those instincts. And so okay, whether that's right or wrong, I'm just saying that's where my thought process was. And I said, well, this woman, Karen, my wife, my current wife, is not the easiest for me to be with. She wants me to change this and change this and change this and change this. And I don't want to, but she wants to. So I proposed to her. We got married. It's been 8 years. But now when I proposed to her, though, and we did get married, we wanted to start kids quickly. So she got pregnant quickly. Well, at this time, I'm still not doing anything super serious with my life. I'm still in this limbo of, I'm still trying to figure out if I can even be a civilian, man. Because I really don't know. I mean, I got all kinds of crazy thoughts. I'm sitting here applying for law enforcement, but law enforcement takes time. If anyone's ever done it, it's not happen overnight. It's a long process. I mean, I got I joined the Marine Corps in a week and waited 6 months, but I mean, I was signed up in a week.
Yeah.
So while I'm going through all of these fitness tests and psychological evaluations and board panels with mayors and store owners and whoever for all these different cities, time is kicking on, and my wife's about to pop out my first kid. So while that wasn't working out, that's what I decided. Okay, well, I'm gonna go build stuff, and so I did. Traded in my Mustang, got rid of it. Actually, I did that 2 days after my daughter was born. Bought an old Expedition, retrofit it with a bunch of tools that I had, and got to work and worked a lot, and got fired a lot too.
Okay.
Because I'm a hard employee to deal with. I'm a very hard employee. I work very hard, but if you're lazy or if you're not doing something for the right reason, or if I perceive that there's some reason that you as my leader are not doing your job, I'm the first person to call you out and punch you for it. Sometimes literally, I did not anymore, but at one point that's kind of how things happen, because I'm used to the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Only the strong and the capable lead, even if that means the unofficial leaders lead.
Yeah.
And so you can't do what I do, blah, blah, blah. I run the business and I do the taxes. And I'm like, well, you bet. I've never done that before, but don't tell me I can't do it. And so this guy fired me. And my daughter was like 2 months old, Okay. So that was that. That is what birthed me as a contractor. I determined that from this job and that job and this job and that job and all this other self-esteem crap that, hey, buddy, for better or for worse, you can't be employed by somebody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Unless you want to go back to Iraq as a contractor. And I don't mean like building stuff contractor.
Yeah, no, I got you.
And I knew guys that did that. And so I said, well, it will be easier for me. I know myself. It will be easier for me to learn how to do XYZ trades in construction. And I will be able to do that with more success and faster than learning how to be a normal human and be employed by a dipshit. And that was essentially my brain. So 2 months later, I had a 16-foot cargo trailer that my dad bought on loan and I paid him for because my credit was crap. And I had a business license in the state of Oregon. And I had to take a contractor's test. Full disclosure, the contractor's test in Oregon is difficult. It has nothing to do with building anything, though.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all business. How much, when do you pay them? How much you pay them? Why are you paying them that?
Okay.
I mean, it was all about the business side and only as it related to interfacing with the state of Oregon, not really what's good business, just make sure you pay them. So anyway, and so I'm a licensed contractor and I work hard. And look, to my credit, I did a lot of things. I did a lot of tough jobs and I learned a lot and I paid the bills and I kept my kid fed and diapers changed. But it required changes. One of my friends from high school said, hey, we're having a lot of hard time doing bids. And I've seen your bids and you're very detailed, very aggressive in your bids. Maybe you can come help us. So I ended up moving up to Washington from Oregon. I had to get rid of that license again. Now I don't have a business. Now I'm not where I know a bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some people on GTP and stuff that work with me at this business, so they might be laughing. But so I go up there and I work for a granite fabrication shop, and they don't need any help with bids. But I start setting tile for them. Well, guess what? I'm still an asshole.
Okay.
So, although I learned some good things from them, I couldn't make it work. Now my son, my second kid my wife is pregnant with my second kid. He's coming. Just found out I got a boy coming. The day later, I get fired again. Pretty much, I think it was like 3 months I was there maybe. So I did better than the last time. So here I am now in a new state with no business license. No nobody, no nothing. I got to start over from nothing now. So I went and got my license again, which is different than Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
I already had my tools. And this time I'd done some work and I already had bid experience. So I had more experience running the business now.
Yeah.
But I had no natural connections. So, in Oregon, I could call up a guy from church or something who built houses and get work. And that's how I got into it. In Washington, it was totally dead start cold.
Yep.
So I'm banging things out around the clock. And my wife is moved with me now a half dozen times. And now she's pregnant with a second kid. And I got that pressure. And so I adapt and I do what I need to do and I take care of things and I learn new things. And at this point, I'm a long ways in the tile. done very complicated tile stuff, at least in my mind at that point in time. This is the first time that I actually find out about Tile Geeks.
Well, so hold on. What's the hardest part of starting and growing a flooring business? Getting clients. If you're serious about taking your business to the next level, you need a marketing partner like Traffic Digital. Traffic is a full-service marketing agency that works with flooring companies all across the country. They'll help you get a continuous stream of customers using the most modern online marketing techniques. So visit www.trafficdigital.com today to sign up for a free marketing analysis. Don't forget, traffic is with a K. So you move, right? Like you're running this business, you move, and you're still an a-hole, and it doesn't, like, you fitting into this more corporate system doesn't work. But you've told your wife, like, I'm gonna change for you, and I'm gonna find a way to, be more human, right? Because I'm very black and white. Like, I didn't do military, right? But I'm very black and white. I'm very robotic. Like, I don't get emotional about things. Like, everything's cut and dry with me. So, like, I get it. Where is she at, right? Like, you now have
She's at home
2 kids.
this entire time.
Well, I get it, but you have 2 kids with her, and you're trying to earn money, and but you're still an a-hole. But you told her you were going to change. So, to kind of put us back on track, and not that we're not working through this story,
Sure.
and not that I don't love it, but how does that play, right? Like, you already you realized, okay, I have to be a different person, but you're not. From the sounds of it, you're not a different person. But she hasn't left.
She hasn't left, and she's been supportive of moving. But what I don't know at this particular time is very shortly. It was about to be the first time I almost get divorced again. She's been very tolerant so far. There's still fights and things, but for the most part, I'm honestly gone too much for her to have a problem with how I behave. Because I'm bidding, and I'm building.
You have a non-existent relationship again.
Well, I mean, when I come home at 7 o'clock, at 6 o'clock, at 10 o'clock, whatever, and I'm wiping butts and feeding babies, and I do night shift. So, I mean, that exists. And she's, very upset from being fired here and fired there and fired here and fired there, and there are other little jobs in between. Even when I had my business, I got fired by family friends because I was too difficult or unwilling to learn. So she's put up with it, but I've got this thing that says, okay, now you really have to work hard. And so I have a general license because Washington doesn't have like a specialty license like tile, like California does.
Okay.
So I'm a general contractor, but for the purpose of being a tile contractor. And I'm doing what I think is massive tile jobs. And I find out that I'm a better salesperson than I am a tile guy. Okay. I outsell my own capacity, which is cool and pat on my back, but also horrible for obvious reasons. Because, okay, you got to go perform now. You got to build this.
Yes.
And I start hiring guys, right? And this is obviously before COVID and stuff. This is 2017, 18. This is late 17 at this point. And that's a crap show. People want to cut glass and install glass backsplashes, and they do real well. But when they got to unload a dump trailer full of tile for the rest of the house, oh, this is too much, and they quit.
Yeah.
So the story that I'm getting to with my employees, though, is I had one guy named Dan who worked in his own license, who I hired as a sub, and he was great. But the other 4 or 5 people I had off and on were like everyone else's experience. Tile is so hard. Crap, no, dude. I'm going to go to the gas station, or my uncle's hiring for, the buck hay or whatever. It's easier than this crap,
Mm-hmm.
So the problem that put me in, though, is I was getting bigger and bigger jobs. I look back now on what I know, and I wasn't a good tile guy. I've learned so much since then, but at the time, I was the best that I knew. I wasn't the best that I knew, but I was learning on every single job to make it bigger and more complicated and more expensive. And so at this point now I'm getting these, what I call McMansions, and I'm doing the tile and SLU and LVP and heated floor and the entire damn 3-story thing. And I think, okay, I got like 3 of these jobs now. Now we're talking about houses, not just a little bathroom. Okay, cool. Great. Good job, Kris. Pat on the back. I got the tools and the heavy equipment, and I got the employees. And one employee I fired because he tells me he's got 20 years of experience, but the next day I grout his tub surround, and one of the 12x12s falls off to the wall and hits the tub.
Okay. That's
So I
always
just called
good.
and said, don't come in today. What do you mean? Do not come here. I'll shoot you. Don't come here. I'm not paying you either. Don't come here. So I'm down one employee, and then I had a truck stolen from me and money stolen from me. And anyway, long story short is I lost my employees because one, I didn't know how to run my business very well.
Hmm.
I knew how to run it enough to get it going and keep going, but not well. I was still an asshole. So although I knew a lot of stuff and I had great skills, I was difficult to work for. Three, people just suck in the first place, as we all know when it comes to hiring employees in this trade. It's very hard to do that. And four, I was overselling myself. If I had 6 months to complete this house, great, but I don't. I have a month because I have 5 guys. Well, now I don't have 5 guys. So now it's August of 2018, and I'm working every single day to get this house done. And this is the point where I lose my car almost. I mean, I basically have to hide my car because I can't pay for it. I've already talked to my landlord and told her, I'll pay her 2 months rent next month, that kind of a thing. And my wife is she's done, dude. She's had it. That's it.
Hmm.
No more chances left. Like, I'm a single parent. What are you doing?
Yeah.
So now we're talking about midlife crisis too. Do I want to get divorced again? And my first instinct is, oh, well, screw her. She's just like Jennifer, blah, blah, blah. She's being selfish and all this other stuff. And then I have that epiphany, like, no, dude, it's you. You're the lowest common denominator. You've got to figure things out. So I just busted through, got that house done, got paid for it, never did that again. But I still had 2 more houses on contract. I mean, I was good through January. Longer story short, I hit up another manufacturing company and saw if they had a job. And they did, Northern California.
Okay.
And I told them, okay, well, I got a couple of months. I got to finish out XYZ. I have no employees anymore. My wife wants to kill me and divorce me. So I got to finish this stuff out. When I become a rep, my wrist won't be on fire every day. And, maybe I can keep my marriage. So I finish out these two houses, and it's like the first week of January, close the business, surrender the license, tell my landlord, here's all your money. I'm so sorry. And by the way, this is my last month. And move down to California and become a rep, which is how most people know me at this point. And that saved my marriage in a lot of ways. But at that company, I ended up having to be gone 3 or 4 nights a week, every single week.
Yeah.
The entire year. And when there's surfaces and stuff like that going on, now we're talking 8-9 days.
Yep.
Okay, well, and now the third kid is planted and growing.
You gotta stop, man.
You're
doing it to yourself.
Yeah, so now I've like, okay, well, I've made choices. I've changed my work. I don't need to run my own company anymore. I don't have the employees problem. I'm going to get a guaranteed salary. It's not quite as much as I used to make, but it's not the same work I used to do either. And I just told my wife, look, I made changes for you. That's it. And congratulations, yeah, you made changes, but that's not it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that still added up, regardless of the paycheck, regardless of the fact that I'm not, working with my hands every day anymore, or coming home dirty or whatever. Still gone 3 or 4 nights a week. I mean, I was in Canada, and New Mexico, and Arizona, and Washington, California, all these different states, all the time.
Yeah.
And I worked very hard. I was trying to build an empire, and I'm proud of that. But I wasn't accessible. Still, my wife is a single parent, and I've already almost had her completely leave me and go home to work into her family with my kids. So after a little while, I had to find a new avenue. And now here I am, my current job I'm very happy for. And I don't travel nearly that much. So now I just have to work on not being an asshole.
Okay. And how's that going?
Well, we just celebrated our 8th year anniversary. But even last year, I mean, it almost ended last year. Because the truth is that I'm not really sure how not to be a Marine, essentially.
Okay.
It's a constant scale back. It's a constant reevaluation of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And the realization that I have to be cognizant at all times that my correct answer, the thing I got in my head that I'm sure is the target, is not the only correct answer. I could be wrong, although it's not likely. I'm right a lot, but I could be wrong. But even more likely is that I'm right for me, but that doesn't mean it's right for her. That's not a component that existed 10 years ago in the Marine Corps. It didn't exist at all.
Yeah.
Well, I have a target. It's in my sights. That's the right answer. Anything else is static. Shut the hell up. Pull trigger. Go. And that's the way I saw things. The way I operated. That's the way I bought my coffee in the morning. That's the way I shot at people. That's the way I paid my taxes. That's the way I existed. Was that mentality? That's it.
So how do you? Well, you're selfish, and we're all selfish by human nature. I get that, but some people are better at having relationships than others, and I once again I identify with like it's cut and dry, right? Like I can be presented with a situation, I'm going to look at it logically and say, this is the best solution. It may not make sense for like including my wife in it, but I'm going to. This decision will get me where I want to go next and accomplish what I want to accomplish, and then they just get to come along for the ride. Well. Where do we stop? Correct. Where, like, if I'm driving the car, right, they're not even in the car with me. They're in the attached, like, RV or travel trailer behind me, right? They're locked up in it, and I'm driving the car, and they're going wherever I'm going. And so we both apparently need to put them in the vehicle with us. And I guess that's... Have you been able to start doing that, and what does that look like? Like, has that been therapy? Has that been just being cognizant of your decision making and taking an extra second to re-look over a situation? Has it, I don't even know if there's drugs or alcohol involved anywhere in this. They weren't mentioned, but like,
no,
does that play a factor? Okay, So.
I mean, yeah, that part of my life when I left my first wife, there's a lot of alcohol and cigarettes. That was part of the reason why I needed to leave Hawaii. But so like I said, I used to see the target and say that's the right answer. And there's no room for debate on the matter. There was no alternative answer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So essentially the way I've trained myself in the last, I'd say 3 years of my marriage, and more so in the last 2 years, actually, was that if I don't like it, then it's probably correct. The Marine in me says, I don't need to listen to your discussion. This is it. This is the plan. If it's like, let's look at something as simple as buying something. Okay. Like my Mustang's a good example, or tile saw or whatever. It doesn't matter if it's 30 grand or $3,000 or $300.
Yeah.
The Marine in me does the evaluation, weighs the pros and cons, runs the long game and says, execute, buy that tile saw, buy that Mustang, buy this, buy whatever. Doesn't need any outside justification. Well, that's what will get me divorced in every instance, right? So I essentially need to bring my wife around and include her, put her in the car with me, not falling behind in my tail smoke. And even if I've already made up my mind, I have to allow her to work through her organic structure, which admittedly is a lot slower than mine, to also make up her mind. And I better pray to God that it ends up being the same decision she makes, even if it takes her a month to do it. And I hate doing that. To me, that's bureaucratic. To me, that's like waiting for a commander to tell me it's okay to shoot this guy in the face.
It's very slow. I've already
it's slow and unnecessary.
You and I are 10 steps further ahead than that. I get it.
I mean,
like I'm already on to the next thing and the next thing, and I'm 10 years down the road instead of in the moment.
100%.
And that's the problem, right? Like we talked earlier, right? And I made the joke of like my wife had been up all night baking the cake, and I wasn't going to go record the podcast in the room with her. And I tried to kick my son out of his bed, but he was up kind of late, and because it was his birthday, and so we have to go to Skateland today and do birthday party stuff. And like, man, that's boring to me. Like, it's cool that he has fun and whatnot, but like for me, like I don't know. Family time is not. I don't get it. I wasn't raised that way. Like,
neither was I.
Here, man.
You're not making money usually when you're on family time either.
Correct. I've kind of gotten over that. Not really, but it's like I can afford to do it, right? So it's like, here's the money for your birthday, kid. Like, go have fun. And like, I did my job as dad. Yay, I'm awesome. And like,
all right.
He wants me there and present. and she wants me there and present. She wants to see me. And like, I don't know how to adjust into that mode because I'm trying to get to the next place. And it sounds like that's you're trying to get to that next thing
Constantly.
instead of being present in the moment and knowing that like I've already made the decisions to make that happen.
Exactly. In Iraq, it was I'm looking at this guy's face, but I'm already planning how to kill this other guy over here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a civilian, this is the decision I'm making, but it's leading up to the empire I'm building. You know, but can't you see my cause is great? So just give me some leeway. Well, the point is that I have to surrender the thing that makes me a Marine the most, my ability to determine, analyze, and execute completely independently. I am, long before I was ever a Marine, a lone wolf. It's the way I was born, the way I was raised. It's the nature of my environment.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I succeeded in the Marine Corps. It's why it attracted me. I was already like that. Lone wolves don't have wives. And for the record, they don't have bosses either, and I have both. And so what I've come to learn, occasionally painfully, to be entirely honest, in the last 2 years is that a lot of the lessons that I need to apply to my boss are the lessons I need to apply to my wife too, for similar reasons, although they're entirely different people. I simply have to allow myself to be subjugated, as much as I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
I have to allow myself to be subjugated. And I have to allow that subjugation to be corrected for me to follow it. That doesn't mean that I can't protest or pull the trigger when I feel it's absolutely necessary. Because if you talk to either my wife or my boss, they'll both tell you stories of how I did exactly that. But I don't know where that balance is at. I don't have a good answer where the balance is at. It's somewhere between not being dead and also not being fired or divorced. It's somewhere in there.
Okay. You know? Well, we got a wide range, so we'll whittle it down slowly but surely.
Right. So, but that's probably the biggest change in me is an identity. I'm still me. I'm still Kris.
Okay.
I'm still the me that I know that maybe probably no one else does know. But I also have to be dad and husband, and that means I do need to pay for things. And my wife has been good. If there was truly a situation where I had to buckle down and get stuff done, she would allow me to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But it can't be the norm.
Yeah.
And even the way that I operate here at Ardex has had to change for her, because it was either change for her or congratulations, you're working at Ardex and paying child support and paying for another house.
Yeah.
And it's not the situation I want to go into. So as far as running your own business and your marriage, there has to be a dichotomy. And that's the horrible poetic word. There has to be a dichotomy between the operator and the participant, is what I call it in my brain. The word operator to me tells me exactly what I used to be. And a participant is how I feel like when I come home and my wife was running the show and I get to do chores like building shelves for my wife or mowing the lawn or changing diapers and stuff. I'm an active participant, but it's not my show anymore, though. It's not the Kris show. It's my family show.
Well, you're both participants in it, right? And that's right. You don't get to go and be the boss at home. That's not what you signed up for. And that's my struggle, right? Is that I can run it. We're just going to do it my way, and then everything's good. But my way isn't my wife's way, and it upsets her. Mm-hmm. She doesn't want to live like that. She doesn't want to behave that way. That's not who she is. And so if there's not some kind of communication and compromise, then it's not going to work. And you're having that same struggle where at work now, right? Because the boss has, this is the way the company does things. And you say, well, this is the way I do things. And they don't mesh, and that culture doesn't work. And you have to go and present what the company says you have to present. And so there's, right, like there has to be open communication, and there has to be a balance and a give and a take. And I'm not big on compromise. Like, I think compromising is weakness. Like, personally, that's
at the end of the day. Taught in the Marine Corps, yeah.
Man, if you compromise with somebody, you gave something up that you really wanted. Like, that's weakness to me, and I don't like it. But
only sissies compromise, Marines execute.
Oh man, and so I don't want to. That's just me naturally how I am. Apparently I should have gone to the Marines, man. Maybe it's better.
Well, you'd either be dead or you'd be a sergeant major.
Well, I don't know that either one of those is a good option. But so there has to be this, it ebbs and flows, and we have to learn it. But as a contractor, we work with our hands, and I think the ego plays into a lot of it, and so that's why
Oh, hell yeah.
a lot of these things fit the bill and line up. Is that, well, look what I created, and I'm the god of this world. Well, no, you're not,
Yeah.
because the minute, honestly, like, man, if I know what my home would look like right now, and I wouldn't call it a home. I would own a house, and I would have a TV and a video game system, a lawn chair, and probably stacks and stacks of fast food everywhere, and probably not even own any dishes. Like, that would be my life, because that's what it was like when I was like 18, 19, 20.
Yep.
I don't need a lot to survive, but I can walk into my house and it's filled with pictures, and it's clean, and there's, like, laundry's done and put away. There's plates, and I get a homemade dinner. And so my wife puts time into that, and you disrespect it when you come in and you're just like, no, it's this way. Like, no, man, the contractor way doesn't support
Nope.
the family way. And
That
so,
works on a job site.
correct. And even then, I don't think it works on job sites anymore, right? Like, we kind of talked about
May
that
not, yeah.
offline, man. Like, that old school mentality of you suck, and I'm gonna pull pranks on you and give you the rag of mineral spirits to get chemical burns, and just talking down to people, and telling them that they suck. And you can't throw hammers at people anymore, but you said your dad got hammers thrown
Oh,
at him, and I'm sure he
that
did.
was
And
his
so,
life.
like, you can't do that anymore. Like, that's not the way people are built. That's not the way it worked. And so
You got
we
to
have to
change with the
overcome.
times.
Correct. But I think we just need to change in general. And where does that come in, right? So, do I need therapy? Probably. Is that a tough pill to swallow? Yes, because, well, I just want to be perfect. Like, I want to be me. So where do we teach these skills to people, though? Right? Like, the military wasn't going to teach you these skills. They need you to be a weapon.
Oh yeah,
So is this something that
absolutely.
needs to be built into school now? Do we need to do, like, self-help relational time in school? Is this, like, do you just put your kid in therapy right away so that they can have a better relationship when they're older? Like, where do we develop these skills to be able to have a successful marriage?
I think so. Let me preface this. I went to 3.5 years of therapy from the VA.
Okay.
And honestly, it was like this phone call for 3.5 years. It was a whole lot of, here's a probing question. Now they're going to listen to me spiel for 45 minutes and take notes and stuff, for 3.5 years. So having said that, I think if I relate it to the military, because anyone who knows me, this is essentially how I operate in my brain. Is I relate it back to Iraq. I can't shoot what I don't see, right?
Okay.
And literally, we don't shoot what we don't see. If someone's shooting at us, but we don't know where they're at, we don't return fire into oblivion. We just stand there and we wait until we can figure out where they're coming from. And then we engage the target meaningfully. When we have a target, the point that I'm trying to make is you can't take care of something that you don't know exists. You can't communicate. You can be the best communicator on the planet, but you can't communicate crap if you don't know what it is you're supposed to be communicating. You've got to be self-aware enough to know your presence in your environment and the interactions with other humans and how they come off, to then start being able to have something to communicate. We haven't done any of the work yet. You're just now fundamentally capable of performing the task. Congratulations, you have some bullets, you have a gun, and now you have a target. Now you got to play the game of hitting the target and not getting dead. And that's a whole other game by itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest issue that I looked back, and this is the irony of it, is one of the reasons I got out of the Marine Corps is because I didn't want to keep moving up in rank and become a desk pansy politician, bullcrap, bureaucratic corporate person. I was a hard charger. I was a trigger puller. I was a field Marine, not a desk Marine kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I didn't want to face the eventuality of a normal, mature world where you have to operate with others outside of the context, strictly speaking, of just pulling a trigger. Well, you got to do reports and say yes sir, no sir, and go to meetings and stuff. I got out of the Marine Corps. Now, look, I work for a major corporation. Was it substantially different in that sense?
Not really.
Well, we don't do morning PT, and I don't say yes sir, no sir, sergeant major, or whatever. But it's still corporate structure.
Yeah.
So it was me being naive. The point, though, is that I knew how to communicate very, very well, but I didn't have enough to be able to communicate. I was successful in the Marine Corps culture, in a war culture, because very little needed to be communicated. Most things were static. Personal things were static. Personal personalities and differences. And you came from Alabama, and I came from Oregon, and you like the Mavericks, and I don't even know what the freaking sport the Mavericks play, kind of thing. All those things don't have any relevance whatsoever at all. So they don't become. You don't need to communicate. The world of humanity that we're living, I suddenly, in that environment, only need to communicate about 1% of it, because only about 1% of it matters to us. So that actually becomes very easy for a guy like me to be able to operate in, because the bar is pretty low. Now leave that world and interact with a wife, girlfriend, kids, spouse, a customer, for heaven's sakes, who's 45 and has the money for flooring, but doesn't want to be told what to do. We got to be able to communicate first, right? We got to be able to figure out what it is to be able to communicate before you can start to do it. And then once you have the target in your sights, now you got to work on your communication skills to be able to say what you mean and mean what you say, and not talk in circles. And this is where my wife and I get at it, because if I think something, I want to say something, I just say it. And my wife is better about that. But sometimes if it's more sensitive, she'll beat around the bush for 2 hours, right? And I have to sit there and extrapolate what the hell she's talking about. But that too is a communication skill, though.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to realize that, and I have to respect that fact. It's a skill for me to be able to be blunt, straight to the point, but it's also a skill for her to be able to be more nuanced about it, and also convey other ideas about that thing too, and I have to be receptive of that. I think as far as school goes, I think part of the problem with our school system is that they're also young. Because they're also young, although we can teach them math and writing and apparently whatever Common Core math is and social studies and stuff, we don't have perspective in our life to be able to teach them their place in the world. Because right now they don't have a place in the world. Their place in the world is behind a desk being told stuff, which is fine. But even if we teach them the greatest communication skills, they don't have a whole lot of content to be able to communicate effectively, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking back on my own life. I mean, I had lots of things to say, but I didn't know the message. I had a gun and I had ammo, but I didn't have a target. Was my problem. And no one taught me how to have a target. Fast forward, now I'm in VA counseling, and this little old Asian lady's looking at me, asking me about how that felt to do this and how it felt to do that, and what did I think about this. And I talked for 3.5 years. That's where it came into play. I had to talk through things for a long, long, long time before I could paint a picture in my head and make dots connect. And suddenly I see the answer, and I tell her the answer, and the shrink says, "Oh yeah, I think you're right." I mean, that was, I'm not downplaying her. I'm not disrespecting her. She did her job, but that was basically what she did for 3.5 years, was probe me, listen to me yap for however long, and then confirm the conclusion that I just came to naturally by going through all of that treading of water.
Well, I think it comes down to, right, we're not good natural communicators. That's what this is coming down to. I will admit that.
Yeah.
And so I can communicate with a client, right? You want to pay me money? I'm your best friend. Like, I can support my family. I can make that work. But like, to open up outside of that, it doesn't make sense to me. And so
abstractions.
If we have to be able to actually process the emotions that we deny. Mm-hmm. And then I think the Marine Corps just went and reinforced that even further for you. And so to come out of that and really have to learn how to process emotions and deal with thoughts and put other people's, consider other people's feelings and stuff is where the issue came in. And so,
yeah, I learned that I don't deal with abstractions very well.
Mm-hmm.
Like you, I can go and bid a job, and I can plan out this job in meticulous detail and communicate it on paper and in words. But I'm not coming up with abstractions. I'm talking about things that are hard lined. They are literal, tangible things. And for this option, produces this result, which requires this product and this tool. There's a system here. It's like a computer. It's just like entering a code. Blank line, ... Submit your query. 1,600 feet of porcelain 12 by 12 tile. Yeah. Results, blah, blah, blah. So I can communicate literally the hierarchy of cause and effect, just like in the military. Yeah. Guy moving to my 3 o'clock, 200 meters out, AK-47, engage. But now when I'm looking at my wife, or my boss sometimes too, or a priest or something, I don't have this submit query and generate results. I have this 100% organic abstraction where there is no left and right lateral limits. I just have to be organic and human, and that is hard as hell for me.
Yeah,
no, very hard. Some people call it small talk.
Yes, and I struggle with that, right? Like it's honestly, it's very weird, right? I just did this whole show, and I do, I record tons of these at this point. There's over 100 of them, and I'll get on the phone and I can talk with somebody, and we can go through your life story, and I'll probe you with questions, and I can do that. And if you put me, so I had the opportunity to speak at this past Surfaces in June, and so there I am up on the stage, and I'm the professional, and I know what I'm talking about. You need to know your worth, and you should go charge more money, and here's why you need to know your numbers, and what are this is all part of your numbers, and right, I'm up on a stage, and I can do all that. Now, if you put me at an after party at night, once everything's shut down, and there's 100 people in that room, I'm going to go stand in the corner.
You don't want to be the center of attention.
Correct. If you're going to make me the center of attention, I can own that and I can do that. But if you want me to go stand in the room and try and have small talk, I'm going to find somebody that I know already and I'm friends with and I talk to on a regular basis, and I can go do that. But I can't wander the room and mingle. I do not have that social skill at all. And I think that plays into being able to have a normal everyday relationship and communicate with your wife effectively. That doesn't work.
You just described me to a T too. I can sit there and teach 200 contractors how to do their job. And I can interact with them, but if let me be in Idaho, I stayed back in mud for the most part, talking to the same 10 people back behind the scenes. I wasn't in the center of attention.
Yeah.
I didn't need to be. No one asked me to be, and I didn't put myself there. It's just, in my life, the way that I process this, and I suspect it has a lot to do with how you operate too, but fear comes from vulnerability. Fear comes because you want to lose something. That's the irony of this, right? I proposed to my wife because I was afraid of being dead or coming back with my privates or my leg or my arm blown off. However, when I was there, I had to be fearless. So I never even processed her, never even thought about her. I put her out of sight, out of mind. That way I had nothing to be afraid. I had nothing to lose. So I had nothing to be afraid of. And so when it comes to interacting with other people in a what I'm going to call a linear fashion, a pre-programmed, submit query and here's your results.
Yeah.
But in an organic, all over the freaking map kind of a way, like a normal social butterfly, I have to care about something to have that sort of organic flow of movement and thought and conversation. And that means there's risk associated now.
Yes.
And I can do it, and I have done it, but it has to be a conscious decision in my brain to behave like this now. That it's okay to do this right now in this situation. And in all honesty, it is taxing as hell on me.
Yeah.
I leave mud floor and I want to sleep for a week. Well, I didn't even do anything really. I didn't float walls.
Well, it's such a contradiction, right? It's a catch-22 because we both have wives. And we don't want to lose them, but we fight giving them what they want because that's not our natural way of being, and we struggle with it. And so it's you need to communicate. You need to build this relationship. You need to talk with me and be emotional. And okay, but I can't do that. I don't know how. Well, then you need to not have this. But then you've already made yourself vulnerable to them. and you don't want to lose it.
Absolutely.
And so now you're caught in this trap of not wanting to lose something, but you don't want to give up what you signed up for. It's
Exactly.
it's a paradox. It's very messed up. So I think you and I both need to do some work and expose ourselves a little more, and we can work on being better husbands. And for those of you that understand what we're talking about, I feel for you. I'm sure Kris or I would both be happy to talk about it. And it's funny that I can get on a phone and spill my innermost secrets or put this out to the flooring world and here's my innermost secrets. But I'm comfortable doing it here, right? I don't feel like I'm losing anything, but I don't know.
No,
It doesn't make sense to me,
I'm
man.
good.
I don't get it. I don't. So maybe I got to go talk to a therapist or something finally.
But
what
let me
I,
know
I,
after 3.5 years how that went.
yeah. What I want guys to realize though is that I think a lot of times it can just come down to, look, if you're worried about money and you get a divorce and you actually build up a successful business, you're probably going to lose more on the back end than it would cost you to like scale down a little bit and invest in the relationship. Especially if like I've been in homes where like I'm doing work and the lady's telling me, you know, she's got her boyfriend living there and she's got 3 kids that she's collecting child support on, but she's getting alimony until the kids turn 18. And so even though her boyfriend lives there, they're never getting married.
Well, that's why.
Because why not collect that extra money for another, 6, 7, 8 years? Like, is that the situation? Would you rather be in that situation, or would you rather like be the husband and have your kids around, and then it's not costing you anything?
Make
it's
changes.
Correct, and it's not just about the money. Like, there's kids that hate their parent. Like, dude, I hated my dad forever.
It's
like,
your life.
So I have a much better relationship with my dad in my late 20s, 30s now than I did as a kid. Like, I hated my dad growing up. There was no relationship there. We hardly ever spoke. I didn't live close to him after the age of 10, and like phone calls would be silent. Eventually he would just be like, okay, well, I'm going to go. All right, thanks. Good. Like, I can go back to doing whatever I want to do.
Sure.
So like, do you want that relationship with your kid? Like the things we're talking about and what we went through here, like it really does matter. And it may make you uncomfortable, and it's going to make, like, I know, well, look, you don't change without getting uncomfortable. And so at some point we're going to have to change in order to keep it. And if it
doesn't hurt, it's not the real thing yet.
You have to. We have to make these changes. You will get a better business on the other side, but you will get a better relationship, a more rewarding relationship. And I don't even have it yet. And I can tell you, like, look, I know it's true. I know it is, because what I'm doing now is I'm spinning my wheels, and I'm sure Kris probably feels the same way. Is that like sometimes you just sit there and you're not getting anywhere, even though you want it to be better, because you're not making a change and you're not uncomfortable enough.
You put forth effort, but you don't feel like you're making headway.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably because your effort isn't painful yet.
Exactly. It's false effort.
If I were to wrap this up, that's my absolute lesson that I've learned, actually, from the Marine Corps too. Embrace the suck. My wife jokes about it now. She says it now. She jokes about it when she hears it in movies and stuff. But embrace the suck. What I've learned with her is I either lose everything that I'm looking at, or I embrace the suck and I do something that I don't want to do, which is usually change, compromise, do something. It is cheaper. It's better because I've already done the wife thing where I didn't change. And it was hell for 5-6 years. But embrace the suck. Change, and more change. You just have to be able to change. And that's really what it comes down to me.
Awesome. I got nothing. I'm going to leave it there. I think that's perfect.
Change. Embrace the suck. That's what I'll leave off. Embrace the suck.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Kris. I appreciate you coming on. If people want to find you, where can they locate you? How can they reach out if they want to bother you more?
Google will come up with a bunch of results. Instagram, I'm all over Instagram. I have a LinkedIn profile under my name too, Kristan Blanchard. Instagram's NorCal Ardex. Facebook is, well, I have personal Facebook, but I have Ardex page on Facebook too, just NorCal Ardex. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. So Instagram, Facebook, just Google me.
All right. You got it. Awesome. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for being vulnerable and opening up and talking about something that's difficult and not the norm for contractors.
Embrace the suck, right?
Yes. So I
appreciate the opportunity,
it.
buddy.
No problem. And I'm sure we will talk again. And I know that you'll probably be in Vegas in February. So I will for sure see you then.
See you there, buddy.
All right.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Take care, guys.
You too. Bye. That's all the time we have for this week. To keep the conversation going, head on over to the Floor Academy Facebook group. Be sure to subscribe so you can hear each and every episode. We can be found on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and most major podcast directories. Don't forget to leave a review and let us know what you think about the show. If you would like to be a guest, have questions or feedback, you can email us at flooracademypodcast@gmail.com. You can help support the show by becoming a patron over at www.patreon.com/flooracademy. Remember to learn while you earn. Flooring Domain is an award-winning online flooring directory and service marketplace that helps you find more customers, grow your online presence and reputation, or your brand. Whether you are a carpet store or flooring installer, perhaps a tile contractor, there are jobs for everyone with a daily stream of customers visiting Flooring Domain and looking for experts like you. Flooring Domain offers a free listing option that allows you to find new customer leads. You can set up a free account at Flooring Domain by visiting flooringdomain.us. Have you ever tried to install LVP on steps only to struggle with the solution for the stair nose? Introducing Snap Caps by SnapTech. You simply send SnapTech the exact LVP your customer selects, and they'll turn it into a perfectly matched stair nose that clicks flush into the tread plank for a simple and reliable solution. Visit www.snaptech.biz to learn more or place an order.